right, so we are rolling.
Bet.
So welcome back to, what is this, episode 10. It took 10 episodes for us to get a little bit of guest action here on Alternative Jargon. This is my best buddy, Jesse Laird, the fifth.
What's up?
We've been buddies for close to 10 years now.
12 years, I think. If you count
7th grade
basketball.
cross country. Oh my God, yeah.
Basketball is like elementary school.
Mm-hmm. But, yeah, I mean, I'm excited for him to take some of the pressure off my shoulders today.
I'm excited to be here.
There shouldn't be as many buts, and things like that today as many of you have pointed out in the past, because he's just going to help me out with that.
Exactly.
But sorry about the little delay on the episodes. I post that, new episodes every Friday, and then it's 2 weeks later without an episode. But if you see me out in public and you see the holes in my forearm with bruises, I'm not a heroin addict. I was in the hospital. Although if I could definitely play a heroin addict right now because I lost like 15 pounds.
You're like Christian Bale in that one movie, The Mechanic or whatever.
Yeah, Christian Bale plays Batman and then plays a guy who's dying 3 weeks later. Yes,
and he's like 125 pounds.
Yeah.
And then he goes back up to being like 270 pounds for like that movie about Dick Cheney.
Yeah. I think his secret is ulcerative colitis, I guess. But yeah, we're at an undisclosed location, sitting here at the gamer desk.
That's right.
So, top secret, new studio.
It's not even either of our gamer desks. It's my brother's, so.
Yeah. I got to get me one of these, though. It has the cup holder for the Monster. And
yeah.
It matches the table.
A little too well, honestly.
I know. That was not planned. But completely unscripted today. Normally I come in with a whole sort of game plan, but today we're just going to let the conversation flow.
That's right.
And they decided to start construction outside as soon as we started.
Oh, that's been ongoing for years.
What are they building?
Houses. They got to do the the under the ground for the pipes, like sewage pipes and stuff for people's houses and stuff. They've built, I think, 4 houses in this area over the past 6 months.
Well, yours is brand new, isn't it?
Yeah. Only about 2 years old. Mm-hmm. But yeah.
Yeah. So what were we talking about before we?
We were talking about books.
Yeah.
We were talking about books.
What are you reading?
I actually just finished a book. I like to listen to Stephen King's audiobooks because I try reading, but for me, it's so hard to make myself focus, especially a lot of people read at nighttime, but all I want to do at night is watch YouTube shorts, and it's destroying my brain.
You're onto YouTube shorts now? Not even Instagram Reels?
Not even Instagram Reels. So I got off Instagram. Too addictive, right? So I'm diluting it with YouTube shorts. And that my whole philosophy is every other video on there sucks. So then my time to quit is faster than YouTube or Instagram.
So you quit Black Tar and now you're just on regular?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And if Instagram Reels is Black Tar, I don't want to know what TikTok is.
I never even used TikTok.
TikTok is the stuff that they huff in Africa where they poop in a jar.
They hold it for a day and then they...
Right.
Yeah.
That's what TikTok is.
Well, the thing about TikTok, from what everybody tells me, and I've seen TikTok work, I feel like it almost reads your mind.
Oh my God, yeah.
You don't even have to, because I noticed on YouTube, if I say a movie's title, 9 times out of 10, that movie will have a clip show up in my reel, my shorts. Mm-hmm. But I noticed that for TikTok, it's almost you don't even have to look it up or talk about it. It just knows what you want to see.
No, and I think that's great. I want the Chinese government really knows how to fulfill my content preferences. I don't even have to do anything anymore. They just hand feed it to me and I take it. So
it's like those people from Wall-E that are on the spaceship.
Yeah,
and they're they have everything in the world that they would possibly want. They literally get floated around wherever they want to go, and they just eat and eat and eat. But it's like the opposite. It's like instead of eating, it's like all about content and stimulation. It's just permanent stimulation.
Oh, yeah.
For hours.
Yeah. No, I love all the politicians freaking out about Chinese data mining from TikTok, and it's like, look, if Xi Jinping wants to know that I like to watch Theo Von clips with GTA gameplay under it, then, you know.
Yeah, and the thing is, I think from what I understand, how TikTok works is if you have TikTok on your phone at all, I think they can access any of the devices that's on your like your normal Wi-Fi list. So if one sibling has TikTok and the rest of the siblings live in the same house, all those phones are basically being data mined.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can you really get away from that?
Yeah, at this point, I think it's been worn out.
Yeah.
What's not, everything's public, so.
Yes. But back to what we were originally talking about. So for books, I have a hard time trying to physically read books, like just staring at them. Usually, if I read them before I go to bed, I fall asleep before I actually shut the book, and then I lose my place.
So when you listen to an audiobook, what do you do during? Because I'm always like, I hear people say that, and I'm like, I mean, okay, I like to listen to podcasts in the car and stuff,
Yeah,
but
definitely.
I can't just sit on a couch and listen to it.
Now, I met somebody when I was going through college that told me about how they would do long distance running, and the thing is, I noticed he was a very well-read person, and I was like, how do you read so many books and take in so much, like, written content when you're always doing stuff? You're always working, or you're always running, or going to the gym. Like, how do you do it? And instead of listening to music whenever he would work out, he just listens to an audiobook. And he'll listen to, like one audiobook a week or so. So over the course of a year, he's listening to like 40 to 50 audiobooks. There's a couple different ways to do this. Now, I know a lot of people are used to using Audible because you get that one free book a month with the subscription and stuff. But it's a very expensive process to try to get books. I found this app a couple weeks ago, and I've been using it. I've already listened to like 4 different books using this app. It's called Libby. It's short for library. But all you need is like a library card, and then you I think you have to take a picture of your library card. And library cards are free.
Yeah.
But then you get this access to all these different books. They have like a bunch of older stuff, but sometimes there'll be like new stuff. But the only problem I have with it is it's like a library. Like they'll only have maybe 4 copies of that one book for this region, like this county, and if other people are using it, you have to wait.
Oh, yeah. I think I've heard of stuff like that before.
Mm-hmm. But it's all free, so I can't really complain.
Yeah. See, I like to listen to podcasts in the car and stuff, and I feel like I can pay attention to those because it's more like a conversation, but I've never gotten into audiobooks because whenever I listen to a podcast, like in the car or if I'm folding my laundry, I don't have to like hang on to every single word.
Yeah.
Whereas if I'm listening to a book, it's like I have, if you miss a sentence, you could miss half the plot.
Yes, and that can be frustrating at times, especially like if you just start zoning out. But honestly, believe it or not, as much as you would think I'd probably zone out, if I'm like exercising or I'm at the gym, like honestly, I'll get so enthralled with the book, I won't even realize how many sets of like bench I hit or something. Like I literally go till I'm completely exhausted just because I'm so zoned in on what's going to happen in the story next.
Yeah.
So, that's one way to take in more, like written material and stuff, but like if you like to read, absolutely go for it. It's just, for me and my ADHD brain, it like does not sit well.
Yeah. For me, I need to hold the book.
Yeah.
I can't do...
I respect that.
Yeah. Like Kindles, no way I could ever do that.
What Game of Thrones book are you on?
I'm on the last one.
No way!
Well, the last one that's
written. Yeah.
In the hospital I finished. I read like 300 pages in 3 days of the 4th one.
Nice.
So I'm on the 5th one. But
sweet. Did they get better, or is it kind of like the same?
The 4th, so like all the main characters like that were in the first three were not even in the fourth at all.
Okay.
Because there were, I don't know, the dude wanted to introduce 50 new characters, I guess, but in the fifth one they're coming back. So honestly, it sounds bad, but I'm kind of just trying to slug through it so I can get to reading other stuff.
Oh, that's fair.
But I'm like, all right, I started this series, I got to finish it, or I'll never remember what happened.
I don't think anybody's ever read like a 1,200-page book cover to cover and didn't find some part of it boring.
Oh yeah,
like it's like impossible.
What was the book you finished?
I read Billy Summers by Stephen King. So I think it's his second newest novel. It's about like this hitman. I don't want to spoil anything, but the story's pretty good. And it's not like his normal stories where most of his stories have like some kind of like supernatural element.
Are there like naked kids in this one?
No.
Because I know aren't half his books just half pedophilia.
No. There was some moments of like inserted democratic comments here type thing.
Right. Was it published after 2016?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was a couple slashes at the party in office at the time.
Right. He's in the middle of a kill and he goes, "Yeah, get indicted." You know.
I just took it with a little bit of grain of salt and kept pushing forward. I don't really like to read a whole lot of politics in my books, and if they do, like, I kind of like it when they're a little bit more, like, they engage your brain a little bit more than just some kind of comment.
Did the book start out with January 6th,
No.
1973?
Not quite that bad, no.
Yeah.
But overall, the story was good. They had some references to previous books, but it was nothing that nobody couldn't read. And I'm sure it'll be a movie or an HBO Max TV show eventually. So.
Right. You know, Stephen King's a wild story because, like, back when he was writing all his biggest books, he was just off coke every day.
Well, yeah, Cujo, he doesn't even remember writing. I did remember reading about that. He would drink, and I think he used, like you said, cocaine so much that he did not remember writing Cujo, and it took him, like, 2 or 3 months to write it.
Yeah.
So, literally, that whole 2 or 3 month span of time is just elapsed in his brain. He doesn't know where it is.
Well, yeah. I guess the craziest people make the best art, right?
Well,
to make the best art,
Vincent Van Gogh, you know.
To make the best art, you either have to be completely strung out on drugs or like an anti-Semite now.
Yeah, I can see that to a certain degree. Like I think it's more of the shock and awe.
Yeah,
I think people like to say things that are shock and awe because it gets them attention. And the thing is, when you're that big, you need attention. Or else, like, you feel bad about yourself. So even if it's positive or negative attention, they're just attention-seeking. It's kind of like a kid in elementary school. They'll hear something messed up from their dad or their mom, and then they'll repeat it at school, knowing that they'll probably get negative attention.
Right.
But they do it anyway.
Speaking of messed up home lives, tell me a little bit about the Ted Kaczynski thing you were telling me about before we were recording.
I don't know a whole lot about it, but I saw that he had passed, and I saw that people were talking about it online, and there was a lot of different types of memes that were ranging in inappropriateness. So I don't fully understand it. I just know that he was the Unabomber, and I know that I remember I listened to a podcast clip where they talked about Ted Kaczynski. Apparently, supposedly, when he was born, he was either separated from his parents or his parents died or something like that. So for the first couple months of his life, he was not held. So a lot of psychologists believe that a lot of his antisocial behaviors are based upon him not being held for 6 months, because we have a lot better understanding than they did back in like the 70s or 60s.
Yeah. Well, wasn't he? I saw stuff too about how he was part of MK Ultra.
Yes.
Stuff.
Yes, and supposedly Charles Manson was a part of MK Ultra too. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot of stuff in there that I don't think we fully comprehend yet. I don't think a lot of it's all revealed, but I think there's enough evidence to point to particular moments in history being affected by MK Ultra.
Yeah. Well, can you get Kaczynski's manifesto on audiobook?
I bet you probably could.
Yeah.
You can get. I looked it up just out of curiosity, because I do this with every platform.
Curiosity, folks. Curiosity.
No. I always check because I want to see what is their stance on like banned books. So I looked up Mein Kampf, which is like the Hitler Manifesto, and it was on there. So I was just like, okay, They're not going to be as ridiculous as to ban all possible inappropriate books. I usually use that as like with that or To Kill a Mockingbird. If you're on a platform and they don't even have To Kill a Mockingbird, it's probably not a platform that's worth your time.
Well, yeah, the whole banned books thing has kind of become confusing to me because at first I don't even know what side is banning what anymore.
It's just...
And half the books that, like I'll see like a TikTok and it'll be like, here's the banned bookshelf at Barnes & Noble. And it's like every book that I read in high school. And it's like, this is not... No, I read that in high school. The Kite Runner is not like,
Yes.
It's not like a Nazi occult book or something. I read that in 9th grade.
Right. So, from my understanding, banned books, to be a banned book, you just have to be banned somewhere.
Yeah.
So, if it's some school out in Utah where most people are Mormons and they decide that they're going to ban a book because it doesn't have polygamy in it, that book is considered banned so they can still label it as a banned book.
So, it's just next level marketing is all it is.
Yes, it is. It's kind of like it's like a reverse psychology. Like, ooh, you don't read this, don't read this, and then you read it. But like you said, I think the banned books thing is kind of changing. When we were kids, it was like, ooh, it was like cool to read banned books, maybe, especially if you were a nerd. But nowadays, they ban books that, like, for ridiculous reasons. Like, I saw recently, I don't remember where, but a high school somewhere, I believe in the Midwest, banned the Bible from their high school because it contained violence and it contained sexual content. And I was just, when I saw that headline, I was just like, okay, they're really reaching here. So they're going to ban this historical book because of the content of the story. But almost all books and stories from that time period are going to have very similar types of content.
Well, every book has something in it.
Yes.
Can you check a Bible out of a school library?
Oh, I don't 100%.
Think, can you?
100%.
Because, I don't know, maybe I was looking at the wrong section in 5th grade. But
I don't think very many kids did.
Yeah.
But to say that... So the problem is when you ban it, that means you can't even have access to it at the school. So you're basically limiting access to that content.
And that was in the Midwest.
Yeah.
Wow.
From what I understand.
It wasn't Orange County,
no,
California.
No, It wasn't. It was not California.
That's interesting.
Yes.
What was I going to say? Yeah. Have you by chance seen the new Hillary Clinton tweet the other day?
No. What happened with that?
All right.
Tell me about it.
So you heard Trump got indicted a second time or whatever because of the documents, whatever.
Correct.
He had documents, even though I think everyone has documents.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I really want to see somebody get arrested, though, because it seems like every other week we have a politician get arrested or some kind of legal trouble and then nothing happens. I need some... We're on, season 7 of the Donald Trump show? Something needs to crack at this point. It's getting a little old. The writers need to step up the game. But
I think we're on the spinoff right now.
Yeah.
We're in Biden season 2.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then maybe next year they'll reboot the main show. We'll see. But... No, so Trump got indicted, whatever, documents, who cares? Mm-hmm. But Hillary Clinton sent out a tweet. You remember her whole email scandal?
Yes.
She sent out a tweet, and it was a picture of her wearing a hat that said, "But her emails." And she's advertising, she dropped a merch line about how Trump got indicted, and she was flexing the fact that her emails didn't get her indicted. And I gotta say, Mrs. Clinton, that is kind of savage. The American dream is not owning a big house. The American dream is committing capital crimes of treason against your country and then dropping a merch line afterwards. That is the America I want to live in.
It's like she rubbed his nose in it, essentially.
Right.
She went out of her way because she's super rich. There's no
reason.
My God. Because people do merch lines to get rich, but she's already there.
Oh, yeah.
It's not like she really needs that money or probably even really desires that money. It was more of a statement I won.
Right. I just think it's great. You commit a giant crime and here's my merch to flex it.
Yeah. I mean, that might become the new norm.
Yeah.
Now that we live in year 2030 or 2023, not 2032, but
Yeah.
now that we live in this time period, I could totally see that becoming a very big norm.
Right. And it's sort of like selling the Super Bowl runner-up T-shirt like 7 years after the Super Bowl.
Yes.
But I just thought that was amazing. Yeah, I might have to vote for Hillary in 2024 just because of that. I just want to. I don't care about politics. I want the most entertaining candidate.
I always thought The Rock Johnson would make for the best candidate.
Oh my goodness. Well, he would like wake up at 5 a.m. to work out and, miss a terrorist attack or something.
I mean, The Rock Johnson would be awake though. Because it's kind of like when 9/11 happened, George Bush Jr. was in, I think, like a high school or a private school or something, reading children a toy story, like a storybook.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, that became, like, a legendary, like, shoot moment, you know?
Yeah.
So
pick up, I don't want the audio to get crappy.
It became, like, an shoot moment, like, this had it happened. But at least if The Rock Johnson's in the gym at 5 a.m. crushing some weights.
Yeah, getting his 4 a.m.
At least he's
injection.
ready. Like, he might get bad news and then lift 500 pounds, which would be a little bit more impressive than running away from a bunch of children.
Right.
So,
by the way, the whole Bush thing, have you ever seen the full clip of that? So he's in an elementary school classroom just for like a publicity thing, right? Mm-hmm. Reading a book to kids. But before the guy comes up and whispers in his ear that, Mr. President, we're under attack.
Yes.
The teacher is like reciting words to the class. And the words are like steel, fly, building, like, and then the guy comes up and whispers. And how crazy is that? I'm not trying to.
I don't know. See, that's the thing. There's so much content there because you got to think, like, how many news channels recorded all those events going down? There's thousands of hours of footage of one basic event, like one, I think the whole attack occurred over the course of like 4 or 5 hours.
Yeah, I think the first plane hit at like 8 something in the morning. Yeah. Second one was like 11. Not even an hour later, maybe.
Yeah, not very long after, right?
Yeah.
So that whole incident, well, not incident, but the whole attack took place over the course of a couple hours. But you got to think, it's in New York City. And I know it was in the early 2000s, and they didn't have a ton of CCTV footage, but there's tons and tons and tons of content.
I'll still see a new angle pop up every once in a while. Yes. It's like, who recorded this and sat on it for 20 years?
Yes, or they kept it in their attic or something.
Yeah. It's not a stock. You don't have to sit on it and wait for it to sell.
Yes.
Oh.
Speaking of weird things people find in their attic, I learned this recently. And I know in one of your previous videos, you were talking about ghosts. And you talked about Gettysburg. I wanted to bring this up. Did you know most of those old-timey family photos, like from the 90s and 80s and stuff like that, where it's black and white and stuff, and they're just standing there, most of those pictures, or at least a lot of those pictures,
have a dead person in them?
Dead person in them, yeah. I did not know that till a couple weeks back. I was at like this Gettysburg thing, and they were talking about it, but I was blown away. And then they had like 100 examples. Like, it'd be like, most of the time it was like either a very old person, a soldier who died in the war, or a child. So, like, that was, like, the main... Like, that was usually the people who died.
Well, yeah, like, Old Man Jenkins would die, and they would just prop him up and...
They would build, like a specialized little chair for him to sit in so it looked like he was awake. Like, it had, like, a little head holder and stuff.
Well, when you go to the beach and they have those little booths on the boardwalk where you can get an old-timey picture taken with your family and they dress you up? I did one of those when I was, like, 5 years old, and we were picking out which package we want, and of course I was going to be the little cowboy with my fake gun. Mm-hmm. And then actually the guy who was in charge of the stand came out and he said, "Hey, you guys want the corpse option too? Like, to keep it historically accurate?" And we said no.
Oh my god.
It was like an extra $100.
What's the corpse option? Does he kill one of you?
No. He wheels out a corpse to make it historically accurate to stand with you guys.
Oh, get out of here.
No, that's a joke.
Oh, okay.
But, yeah, no, that's crazy. And I think it's also funny that back in the day, like, when they would take pictures, everyone just looked miserable.
Well, another reason for that. So when they took photos most of those old-timey photos, they actually had to crank it. Now, I don't understand the exact thing. It's like they had to have a certain amount of light exposure. So this light is slowly getting brighter and brighter and brighter. But it takes like 30 seconds to like even a couple minutes to take one photo. So you had to stand perfectly still, almost like you were getting your portrait like painted. Like you kind of have to stand there pretty still, can't move a whole lot, and they would just take your picture, and it took a while. But the one of the problems is like sometimes you look at one of those old photos, if it's a little fuzzy around their face, it means they moved.
Yeah.
And that's one of the ways you could tell when somebody was getting a photo with a deceased family member, because their head is perfectly like preserved in this picture, but the other person shifted a little bit or moved, especially like if it's like if you have like a set of twins and the one dies from cholera, the other one's, you can see it perfectly clear. The other kid's a little fuzzy. It's because the kid was moving around.
Yeah. And people see that picture today and they're like, oh, this is fuzzy. That must be a ghost.
Well, I just thought about that, and I just wondered to myself how many Cracker Barrels in America have a photo of someone who's actually deceased and they have no
all
idea.
of them. Yeah.
Probably most of them.
Yeah.
So next time you're at like a family restaurant, you look up at the wall and you see like old portraits and photos from like the 1800s. Very well possibly could be a dead person. Well,
Yeah.
I mean, it would be a dead person, but in that photo, they could be dead.
You know, there's like no way to prove that anyone in the past smiled because none of them are smiling in pictures.
Well, think about it.
Did anyone smile before the year 1900?
Smiles weren't invented until 1901.
No. The muscles hadn't developed yet to move your mouth in that way.
I think what's creepier is if you were to sit there and smile for like 3 minutes straight while they're trying to take your photo. That would probably hurt your face.
Yeah.
And it's like moms used to say, like, if you keep making that funny face, you're gonna be stuck like that forever. Mm-hmm. Like, your face is just gonna be stuck.
Yeah, and that's how both of us ended up the way we look.
Yeah, just sad all the time.
Yeah. Oh man.
So I definitely wanted to bring up that topic. I'm glad we talked about that.
Yeah. Tell me about this Colombian thing.
Oh, yeah. So I don't know the whole story. I was listening to a different podcast this time, but it was just like one of those world news podcasts. So they go over a little bit of everything that's going on in the world over the past like weekend or whatever. But apparently in Colombia, where a decent portion of the rainforest is, there was a plane crash earlier in May. I don't know the exact date, but there was only a couple people on the airplane. It was like one of those like private airplane type deals. And I think all the adults passed in the plane crash. But there was like a 13-year-old, I believe a 9-year-old, and a 1-year-old, I want to say. And they lived for a month out in the rainforest. And they recently got found by the Colombian government, and then they were brought to safety and everything. But I was just thinking, like, when I brought this up before we talked about it on the podcast, you said Lord of the Flies. That would literally be probably the closest we've seen to a real-life Lord of the Flies. But I think they were all related.
Now, does Colombia have a government, or were they...
I think they...
Or did they just get rolled up on by the cartel?
No, I think they have, like, a pseudo-government. But I have no entire clue. Most of those places, like, the majority of those places, they have, like... It's almost like a front. Like there is like a government, but the powers in that government is not how you would probably think it would be.
So the United States of America.
Kind of, but it's a little bit more noticeable in those places than it is here.
Yeah.
But the children were brought to safety, and all I could think was, if I was like a 13-year-old, even if I was me right now, stuck in the rainforest, I would probably get eaten by a snake or something in the first hour of being there.
I'd get a brain-eating amoeba in like 20 minutes.
Like not know how to boil the water, so just drinking pond water.
Yeah.
Or one of those damn the toads, you know,
like the bright green ones, or the...
No one ever talks about this anymore, but I feel like maybe this is something only kids talk about, but there's those rainforest toads that are like super deadly.
Oh yeah, if you like touch them, you die.
Yeah, they're venomous.
Because they're covered in like their own venom.
Or they're poison. I think it's poisonous, because I think it's poison if you touch it.
Right.
Venom is if you're bitten, I think.
I always thought it would be sick to have one of those as a pet, because they're like bright neon blue. They look so awesome.
Well, yeah, it's like so unnatural looking, but it's for like a reason. It's like a warning. And then some of those frogs actually aren't even poisonous. They just evolved to look like those other frogs.
Right. It's like,
just so people, like things wouldn't eat them.
What is it? Like milk snakes? They're like the bright red
Yeah.
and white, but they're completely harmless.
Yeah, like they're like a garden snake, basically.
Yeah. No, that is like a vivid memory of mine. I felt like every single time I would read a book in school, there was a picture of one of those glowing frogs.
Or a giant
and
snake.
They look, I'm pretty sure those
monkey.
frogs are tiny too.
Yeah, they're real tiny.
But they look like they'd be so much fun to like hold.
Well, they say like just like one initial contact with them can kill you.
Yeah.
It's like I would be that guy walking around the rainforest and it would just hop on my neck and I'd die.
Right. They look like if you bit into them though, they would taste like blue raspberry candy.
Kind of like something out of Willy Wonka's chocolate factory.
Yeah.
Like they would just be pulling the grass out of the ground, eating it, and it turns out it's like, I don't know, like sugar candy and stuff.
Yeah.
Or like they have like a chocolate river, but actually it's a brain-eating virus.
Yeah. Well, isn't that just South America?
Yeah. That's even here, dude.
Oh my gosh.
There's people in the Louisiana, like there's people that get sick, not just Louisiana, but everywhere. But like people will be swimming, and then a month later they'll be like, "Man, my head hurts," and they'll go get a CT scan, and half their brain's missing.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's kind of what I thought because I went on Memorial Day. I went swimming in the Susquehanna River with some of my friends.
yes.
And then the very next day is when I got all these terrible symptoms and like 2 weeks of sickness. And I was like, did I just get,
Some kind of virus?
Yeah,
or
that's what I
amoeba?
initially thought it was. But luckily it wasn't. And I don't know if I would ever want to go swimming in water where it's warm out. It's where it's warm and maybe where the water doesn't move a whole lot.
Yeah, stagnant water is not safe water because that's where not just mosquitoes, but all sorts of bugs lay their eggs and then they hatch. I was on a hike with my folks the other day, and I had a tick crawling on my leg. I hate ticks. Like, I've picked so many off of me before, but like this one looked weird. It was like orange with like a white dot, so I'm pretty sure it's like the Texas Lone Star, but I didn't even know they had them here because it had like a white dot in the middle of it in PA, because I'm used to the little deer ticks where they're like black, maybe like a little bit of brown, but they're like small. This one was like decently big. And I know it was a tick because of the size and how they move.
Oh yeah, ticks are disgusting.
Easily
They're disgusting.
Easily in my top 3 creepiest creatures out there.
Yeah, well, especially the ones that get the size of like a nickel.
Oh,
because no,
and they get so full that it looks like a grape by the time they fall off a deer.
Oh my gosh!
You know, deers can have like thousands of ticks on them at once.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't even know how that's like possible. Like, I feel like, I mean, I guess ticks overall, they only take so little blood, but at the same time, like, it's just crazy to me how they can all gang up on one creature. Or like, they find like raccoons that have hundreds of them on there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, how do they not die from like not having enough blood?
Yeah,
I have no idea.
But I get one and I've got a disease, you know?
Yes.
Yeah.
You get one. If I think the whole thing is, I want to say, as long as you can remove the ticks safely within 24 hours, and by safely I mean you have to remove it by the head. So like they have these special, I have a special pair of tick removers, and it's like this thing that gets in between their prongs, like their little teeth that latch on, and then it makes them open up, and then you pull them off. But the problem is, one time, when I was in my youth, I was at like one of those Christian camps, and I got a tick on the back of my, I think it was between my shoulder blades. So it must have came in through my like my neck hole in my shirt, and it crawled down onto my back because we were like outside doing random stuff, but I got a tick bite and they went to remove it. The camp counselors went to remove it, and they ripped the body off without the head. The head was still attached.
Oh.
And the disease is in the head. So the whole time I was like, oh God, like I probably have Lyme's disease. They took the head, they took the body, they sent it to this lab where they got it tested. And then like 2 weeks later, I found out it had no Lyme's disease. And I was like, I was only like 9 years old at the time, and I still knew like Lyme's disease is no joke.
Yeah.
I know a girl, not to derail conversation, but I know a girl from my college who she actually got this Lyme's disease that gave her a really rare syndrome. I think it was called like Hellman syndrome or something. But basically, she not only was she like allergic to meat and stuff, but like she could hardly eat anything. She lost like 50 pounds in like 2 months.
Jeez.
Yeah, and she was on all sorts of different steroids and stuff. She's doing a lot better now, but like Lyme's disease is one of those things that stays with you.
Oh, yeah. My grandpa had it. I know someone at school who has it. It's not good.
Some people get allergic to meat.
I heard about that because it was like a year or two ago that there was some tick going around, and if you got it, you couldn't eat meat.
Yes. Yeah.
My mom flipped out about that.
Yeah. I mean, I would too.
Yeah.
Meat is like a staple part of my diet, but...
That's a good reason to flip out, though. If I couldn't eat meat, I would probably just,
Yeah, where are all the bugs that are like, hey, man, you don't have to eat vegetables?
Yeah.
Like, hey, you get a pass for life. You don't have to eat fruit.
Right. Hey, man, if I bite you, like, sugar has no effect on your weight gain. Where are those ones?
Exactly. Well, see, that's the problem. If those existed, people would use it like medicinal.
Oh, my gosh. The Kardashians would be on that day one.
Yes.
Have you heard about the... what's the drug for diabetes that all the celebrities hopped on and now the people with diabetes can't get it? It's like, it starts with an O.
Yeah, Ozempic.
Yeah, Ozempic. So Kim K
that.
hops on it so she can keep her diaper butt
I
and her
heard
20-inch waist. And
the problem now is there's like a shortage in the U.S. or something like that. So people are actually going to like Mexico or other places outside of the continental United States in order to get this drug. And apparently it's a lot cheaper elsewhere, which makes sense. Mm-hmm. But the safety on that, I have no idea. I've also heard, though, because this is a different podcast I listened to. This one was more of like a medical based one, but they talked about Ozempic and what it actually does. So how the action works, I'm not entirely sure, but what it does overall is not only do you lose fat, but you lose muscle mass. So a lot of the participants in this one study lost just as much muscle, if not more muscle, than they did fat. So they actually ended up with a very similar BMI, even though they lost like 30 pounds. Because they basically lost all their muscle mass. And they looked skinnier because they did lose fat too. But the problem is if you don't have the muscles to, like for like longevity, like muscle growth, especially like in older people, is like a longevity thing. Like if you don't have back muscles and stuff, you're not able to stand up and walk around like normal.
The good news is for like the Kardashians is if they lose all of their bodily figure, they can just get a plastic injection wherever they're lacking again.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they can just get a filler.
Like if Kim K's bicep is no longer able to
just put a piece
move
of
a glass of
silicone.
water to her mouth, she can just she can go to a plastic
surgeon.
Well,
they can afford to have somebody. You could be the water boy for Kim K. Like you could just Kim K, are you thirsty?
Yeah.
Like it's like watering a plant.
Right. I want those people to have a downfall someday, but I know they're not going to.
No, and that's the thing. Like, I think people most of the time they'll experience a downfall when you're least expecting it.
Yeah,
and it's usually whenever they get so old they can no longer keep up that facade of. Because I do find it kind of alarming. Like, the whole aspect of getting cosmetic surgeries is so much more prevalent than it used to be. Like I actually had a surgery done on my nose a couple years ago, and I had a deviated septum. So basically,
and you can breathe now.
Yeah, the cartilage in my nose had shifted from when I was growing up to one side. So basically, the surgeon was able to shift the cartilage in my nose and add things to help support it so I could breathe. And like you said, I was able to breathe a lot better for a while, and I had some of the best sleep of my life, like the month after that surgery.
Right.
But some people get surgeries like that even though they don't need it at all
to
look better.
Have you ever seen this like literally grosses me out just to talk about, but have you ever seen the thing online like the Black Alien Project?
What is that?
So there's this guy, he's from somewhere in I think either Latin America or South America.
Okay.
And he is completely altering his body to look like an alien. So
like
the guy,
an alien? I've seen the Ken doll.
The guy here,
and I've seen the Barbie person. I've seen the Ken doll. I'm sure there's dozens of other duplicates, but I've not seen an alien.
This guy was like a normal looking guy. And I have no internet. Hold on.
Did he have like his nose removed and stuff?
Oh my gosh. Okay, so he had his first of all, he tattooed his whole body black.
Okay.
He tattooed his eyes black.
Okay.
He got like all these things put, like the studs. He got his tongue split in half. He got like his lips removed. He has a bunch of piercings. He removed the 2 fingers off of his hand, so now he has 3 fingers and like not even a hand. He what else did he do? He wants to like remove his feet, and yeah, it is like the most sick, disgusting thing I've ever seen.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he did all this outside the continental United States, or was some of it done here?
I think he does it all down there, wherever he is.
Okay.
But it like, I don't know.
It's interesting.
I would love to see his mental health diagnosis.
Yeah.
You think if they threw him on Zoloft a couple years ago, he would have been all right?
It's hard to say because
this guy is...
There's some people that I think in this world that are just destined to do things that everybody else finds bizarre. No matter what kind of interventions you throw at them, it's like their destiny is to be one of the most bizarre people out there. And I think it's his right as a human. If he wants to go do that, I guess he can do that. I think it's fair to give some advising beforehand, like, hey, before you get your feet removed, maybe it's not the greatest idea.
Another thing about this guy, he has like an Instagram, and in like his bio, he keeps an update of like percentage complete on the project.
What percentage is he at?
I think he's at like 50 or something.
So he's just
I mean, I haven't
halfway.
checked it. I don't like to look at this, but like every 6 months it comes back in my head and I'm like, oh God, I'll go check.
This is a very bizarre scenario, but what if he gets to 100% completion and then the aliens show up and they look just like him? They're feetless, lipless, studs in their head,
and then people bow down to him, and
yeah, exactly.
And we
He'd
have
be like
a new
local celebrity.
Yeah, maybe he does know something we don't.
Yeah,
maybe it's Ted Kaczynski. He's not dead.
He wasn't held as a baby.
Yeah.
Well,
it's just Michael Jackson. He wanted to make sure people didn't know it was him after he faked his death.
It's definitely a possibility. I know people do a bunch of different things to their body. The tongue splitting thing I had seen before. Mm-hmm. I don't think I've ever actually met somebody with a split tongue, but I find it kind of bizarre how the tongue knows that you can move each part independently. That's pretty weird.
Yeah. I think tongues in general are just kind of gross.
Yes.
Like if I think about a tongue, it's just like a worm in your mouth. It's kind of gross.
Well, and they say, I don't remember exactly how it goes, but I believe the tongue, like, as a muscle, for the amount of size it is, it's like the strongest muscle.
Yep. Yeah. I know the strongest muscle in the body is your butt, but I think pound for pound, like if your tongue was the size of your butt, it would...
Oh, it would be ridiculous.
Yeah.
It would be like one of those gorillas that's able to lift like a car or a truck.
You could like do dumbbell curls with your tongue if it was big enough, probably.
Yes. That's funny. I think, and I know a lot of people online talk about this before, but I would love to see. So they had Lucy. I think she was a gorilla, and they were able to teach her some basic sign language skills. Basically, I think it would be amazing if someday, like some very advanced Jane Goodall type person was able to train a gorilla to body train. Oh my gosh! And do like squats and deadlifts. You know how much money I would pay to see a gorilla bench press? Like 2,000 pounds. Yes. Yeah. I would love to see that. I would definitely pay a good chunk of change to see that. But I would have to be behind one of those like super duper thick pieces of plexiglass. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Like one that's like a foot thick. And like I wouldn't even care. I would be like a mile back with like binoculars looking at it, but I still enjoy it because I don't want to be anywhere near that. Yeah, I want to see a gorilla I give a gorilla smelling salts and then let him hit a deadlift. Yeah. I see, and that's like it goes back to like the Jurassic Park thing. Like apparently, scientists are fairly close to being able to reverse engineer dinosaurs from like chickens and stuff like that. I remember watching a video about it when I was in high school, and you know what? I'm all for it. I'm never taking my family to Jurassic Park Island, but to watch that from afar and watch videos of dinosaurs, I'm all about it. Yeah, yeah. Who's the scientist? Steven Spielberg. Actually, it's James Cameron. Yeah. So after he went down to the bottom of the Mariana After he releases Avatar 7, he's going to get on the dinosaurs. Speaking of Avatar, did you know that they're supposed to release Avatar 3, 4, and I think 5 before the end of this decade, which is quite bizarre to me.
Yeah, and I haven't seen the new one. I saw the first one.
If you've seen the first one, you've basically seen the second one.
Well, it's a movie about Native Americans that are just painted blue. Like, it's literally just a movie about Christopher Columbus, but in space.
This new one, they got whales.
Oh, sorry.
And the whales are like super smart. Not to spoil it for anybody. It's in the trailer, but
sorry.
The whales are super smart.
I think and I heard something about the third one is going to be about the fire tribes or something. So each new movie each new movie is the same movie with a new
Avatar's turning into Avatar: The Last Airbender, where they have like the multiple, like they have the Earth Kingdom, they have the Fire Nation.
Well, yeah,
each
movie is the same movie but with a new filter on it, with a new Visco filter slapped on it. Like, I don't know, I feel like it's more of a spectacle than it is a story. Right. It's just let's see how much CGI we can do on a $300 million budget.
I will say, aesthetically, I think the movie looks good.
Oh, it looks amazing.
But like as a story, I remember when I saw it in theaters, I don't hate any of those movies. I just found it to be kind of boring. There was a lot of parts in it where they just sit there and talk.
And it's very predictable.
And the dialogue, I can't really get into because it's this weird mishmash of like English with them trying to talk like Native American sort of, I don't know, like Lost Tribe type things. And the thing is, it's like someone's trying to talk to Yoda while the Jake Sully characters are talking like TikTokers. Yeah. So it's like this very bizarre thing. They try to throw in like hot, flashy words from like this generation, and it just doesn't work out.
Yeah, I saw a tweet the other day that it was a reply to like the schedule of the next 3 movies over the next decade, and the reply would just said, so which one are they just going to nuke the planet and get rid of the blue people? Like, let's get this over with already. Like,
or the alternate where the blue people destroy Earth. I've heard that too. So that's another theory.
Yeah. Are you going to go see Barbie and Oppenheimer?
Barbie and Oppenheimer? I don't know. I would like to. I love movies. What's that one about?
Well, there's Barbie and there's Oppenheimer. They come out on the same day.
Oh, they do?
Yeah. So everyone said...
I thought it was like one mishmash movie.
No. Yeah, Barbie eradicates Nagasaki in this one.
That's the weirdest crossover of the century.
No, so Barbie has Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling, and it's just a Barbie movie. And then Oppenheimer is Christopher Nolan's one about the nuclear bomb.
Okay. Yeah, the I
am become
destroyer
death.
Of the world.
Yeah.
The destroyer of the world, yeah.
When Oppenheimer finds out that Project Kill Humanity is used to kill people. Oh my God. But no, I'll definitely go see it.
I like to watch those types of movies too, but I always have one of those existential moments afterwards where you watch like a big dramatic reenactment of some crazy part of human history, and then you have to just sit there like, wow, that actually happened. Or at least to a certain degree it happened to a similar sense. I'm sure they'll throw in things and remove things from history, but it's just how it is.
Yeah, and I saw something too about Oppenheimer. Like if you go see it in IMAX or whatever, the director, Christopher Nolan, was like, yeah, during the bomb scene, we want the viewers to feel the bomb.
So is it like what was it? 4K like IMAX theater type thing, like you'll be sitting in your seat, like if you're watching a dolphin movie, a little bit of water splashes on you and then something pokes you, but like in the bomb scene, like they actually drop a bomb.
There's gonna be metal detectors at every theater on opening day. So
or it like tases you a little bit.
No, but it is weird to think that stuff like that actually happened. It's kind of surreal.
It is. And then another aspect of it that's so crazy is, I mean, if you ever watch any of the news, or even if you walk into a place and they have the news on, it's usually something to do with the conflict happening over in Russia and Ukraine. And one of the hottest words with that is nuclear bomb or atomic bomb. So
and something needs to ramp up there. It's getting old.
It's a war of attrition, and both sides, I think, they're just going till they physically can't anymore, because it's like, what more can they do other than something crazy like a bomb?
Yeah. Well, I think we're on season 2 of the Ukraine war, and it's kind of slowed down. Somebody's got to make something happen.
You know,
there.
and they like to say that the Cold War has ended, but I think, in my opinion, the Cold War is on season 55.
Oh my God, the Cold War is the Cold War is nowhere near over.
Yes.
If anything, it's probably bigger now than it ever was.
I would go to say that it's probably bigger now than it was when it was actually still going on.
Oh yeah, and instead of now just Russia versus America, it's every country against every country 24/7.
24/7, correct.
So,
have you seen anything about this the chimpanzee documentary? I think it's Empire Chimpanzee or something like that.
No, what is that on?
It's on Netflix. I watched the trailer for it. I definitely want to get into it and watch it because everybody keeps talking about how good it is. But supposedly, these people record these chimpanzees. I believe it's in the Congo or something, and they're all in the wild. And none of these chimps have been domesticated at all. It's all 100% wild chimps. And the thing is, they can get fairly close to the point where they're recording them very close. But the thing is, there's a certain amount of distance they must keep. And I know, because I think in the trailer, or I read it somewhere, but they cannot eat anything near the chimpanzees. Because if they eat anything, the chimpanzees get interested, because it's what's that dude eating? I can smell it.
Yeah.
Or I can see it. So then that's a big no-no. So whenever they're filming, they cannot eat anything.
Is the point of the show just to kind of show chimps in their natural habitat?
Yeah.
Do the chimps know at all they're being filmed?
They do. So it's kind of interesting because it's almost they know that the humans are there, but they are so used to them being there, they don't mind them, if that makes sense. Just as long as they don't breach those initial things. They can't get too close, and they can't eat food in front of them. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there's some other rules and stuff that go along with it, but...
Because I would love to see... I feel like when animals know they're on camera, they subconsciously put on
act a little differently.
Yeah. I would love to... what if animals just... Because the only footage we have of animals is mostly when they know they're on footage.
But I think chimpanzees are one of those creatures that are so smart. Even if you were to have a drone and fly it above them, I feel like they would somehow know it's there.
Yeah.
They're just that
What
smart.
if chimps are actually just chill? But as soon as we put a camera on them, they just start acting. Yeah.
See, that's an interesting take on it. They have an actor face.
Mm-hmm. It's like Toy Story. If you walk into Andy's room, they're gonna just they're
gonna fall over and act like they're not alive.
Yeah.
So it's definitely possible, but I think chimpanzees are one of those creatures that are just so smart, and they're so similar to us in very obscure ways. I know that they have on their own created some basic tools, but I know humans can actually teach them stuff. Mm-hmm. So they're so smart, they're at a level of maybe a 6-year-old or a 7-year-old, so they can actually learn basic skills. There's this zoo somewhere in the world that taught them how to I think they taught them how to put twigs in an anthill, and the chimps actually knew how to do that, and then they would eat the ants from the ant, the stem. They would put it in there and eat it. You
said that show's on Netflix?
Yeah.
Did you hear that Netflix is opening a restaurant in California? Or in LA?
What's the gimmick with it?
I don't know, but I heard if you share food, they kill you.
Oh. No, it's every 10th person disappears.
Yeah.
And they become one of those actors in those Netflix original movies that are just god-awful.
Oh, yeah. No, but back to animals. I don't think we put enough emphasis and kind of hype on the fact that parrots can talk.
So, parrots can talk. I actually watched a video about this. Parrots can talk, but they're not the smartest bird. They say ravens. I think ravens are the smartest bird.
Yeah, but I follow this account on TikTok. Mm-hmm. This is how every good conversation starts. But
yes.
There's this parrot on TikTok, mm-hmm. and the owner of this parrot will hold out a piece of something, mm-hmm. and the parrot will peck it with its beak.
Okay.
And then the owner will be like, "What is this?" And the parrot will be like, "Glass, metal," and it gets it right every single time.
Ooh, that is
the
pretty
parrot
wild.
Knows what the material is and then says it.
Yeah, repeats it.
Yeah. Or he'll feed the parrot something, and then the parrot will say what it just ate.
See, my thing with that, I've also seen videos that are the opposite, where parrots they are able to remember like thousands of different small phrases. So then it's like, what is the chances that they happen to get a clip where the bird is just happening to say the right thing at the right time? Because they could sit there and do that all day. Like, what's this?
Oh, yeah.
It's a piece of glass, and they're pecking it. It's like cracker, cheese stick, stuff like that. So, I mean, it's definitely possible. The parrots are definitely pretty crazy in the fact that they can mimic you. And there's even there's birds out there that are not related to parrots that can do that. Like, there's like literal mimicry birds where they can say whole phrases.
Oh, yeah.
Like, if you go out in the woods and shout help, it'll know, and it'll just say help.
Speaking of stuff like that,
freaks me out.
Yeah, I have been on my For You page on TikTok. I've been seeing a bunch of stuff about the Appalachian Mountains and how they're...
The 411 disappearances?
Like, how they're haunted and full of, like, fairies and skinwalkers from Native American tribes, and how, the Appalachian Mountains are older than the rest of the world, and this is land that should not be touched.
I love those videos where it's like when you're going on a hike and you see a deer and it stands up on its back legs and says your whole name and address and your area code, and then it gets back on its legs and walks away like nothing happened.
Yeah. It's stuff like that. And I've seen stuff that's like, if you live in Appalachia and you see something in the woods, no, you didn't. And it's like, okay.
Yeah.
And then all the comments are like egging it on, and then I'll see someone reply to those videos and be like, I've lived in Appalachia all my life, and this is BS. This is a beautiful country, and you're just trying to throw us under the bus. We live in the Appalachia. We don't live in the mountains, but...
We live close enough to it.
And, like, we're not in the heart of West Virginia, but I've never heard any of that stuff until I saw it on TikTok.
So... knowing that you'd never seen it before seeing it on TikTok,
right?
Does that affect the validity of these things?
That's what I'm getting at. You know,
are there fairies out there? Who's to know? But I will say this, without a doubt, there are some creepy people who go on Appalachian trails with some nefarious intent.
Oh yeah,
the frequency of it. You know how many people do the whole Appalachian Trail a year? It's like 2,000 to 3,000, I think, every year. So most of those people are probably just hippies. I doubt most of those people have nefarious intent. But the thing is, it only takes one or two couple bad apples to create these crazy myths.
Right. I have a story about that. Not my own, but my dad's story.
Okay.
So back when my dad was growing up, probably in high school or just out of high school, around our age, something like that, my dad and his buddy and a few of their friends went camping, like, on the Appalachian Trail. They had like lean-tos that they would sleep in. Okay. So they were hanging out in the lean-to, whatever, and it was dark out. They were camping, and all of a sudden they were talking. This is how my dad always told it, but they were talking, and then my dad was like, shh, shh, like, because he thought he heard something. Yes. And he thought he saw, you know what a lean-to is, right? Yeah. 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 And he thought he saw somebody's head poke in from the side of the lean-to. And he told everyone to, like, shut up. And he grabbed his flashlight and shined it on it. And nothing was there. And then he went out of the lean-to and, like shined it around. And he didn't see anything. And nothing after that happened. But then a couple weeks later, or a few weeks, maybe a month down the line, something like that. Yes. Like 2 women were murdered near that spot. And I don't know if they ever caught who did it.
Do you know when this was? Was this in the 80s?
Probably the late 70s, something like that.
My mom has a similar story on... I don't remember if it was the Appalachian Trail necessarily, but she was up in a mountain range near where we live, and she was hiking with one of her friends, and it had gotten dark out, and they were on their way back, but they were just goofing around, and they see a helicopter in the distance, and they're like, oh god, like maybe we should get back to our car. So they start walking back to their car. They're on the trail, and they can see basically everything around them because of the light from the helicopter. And then the helicopter flies over to them, shines the light down on them, and a guy with a speaker says, you must get to your car and vacate the area immediately. Like, we can guide you and stuff, because it wasn't far from where they were parked, but like, you need to leave now. Turns out they were on a manhunt for a guy who had killed somebody, not on the Appalachian Trail, but they had committed a murder, and then they were basically fleeing the area using the Appalachian Trail. And they eventually found him a couple days later, yeah. Now, the frequency of which those kinds of events occur, I'm sure, is probably less and less, especially with the advancements of technology and things.
Yeah.
But weird incidences like that occur enough that it definitely creates like this weird mythos of the Appalachian Trail.
You ever hear about not just the Appalachian Trail, but like national parks? Like
the missing 411.
Yeah, don't walk off the trail.
Well, the craziest ones are the ones where people will be in a big group. It'll be like 7 or 8 people, and then one person out of nowhere is gone. They just don't know where they went. No idea where they went. And then the thing is, sometimes they find them, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they'll find their clothes, and that's it. Sometimes they'll find people dead, but they'll be like a mile from where they were last seen.
Yeah.
And sometimes they'll be like 40 miles from where they were last seen.
Well, yeah, I think it's interesting because I guess the national parks are kind of just kept completely wild unless it's in an area that's supposed to be where people are, I guess.
Right.
I
think it's also kind of obscure because I watched some content about the missing 411, and basically I think the whole concept of it is it's like people who go missing in like state parks. So basically some of it can be attributed to suicide. Some of it can be hunting disasters, like things just go wrong. Sometimes people do things that they shouldn't do by themselves, like hiking a large distance as an old person by themselves.
Yeah.
Like, so some of those are kind of ruled out as, okay, these are reasonable reasons as to why they get lost. But the ones that are the craziest are the ones where it's like a large group and they disappear very, very suddenly, almost like in thin air type thing. And then they find some of their belongings or a body, or sometimes they even get found alive.
Yeah.
And the thing is, the people who get found alive, they don't even know what happened to them. Like they say, like, it's literally, it's kind of like those old abduction stories, like with the aliens. Like they literally just wake up somewhere and they're like, yeah, I don't know. And it turns out they've been gone for like 5 days.
Yeah.
So I think it's a bit of a stretch to be like, oh, all those people just had heat stroke. Especially when it happens
There's
in the winter.
something going on.
Yeah.
There has to be
bizarre.
something. I don't know. Maybe they picked the wrong mushroom off a tree. But I don't know. I would love to know the truth about all that stuff. There's no way we're ever gonna know, though.
No. And that's the thing. I think some of it could be like, I know in the past, like the cartels are able to infiltrate certain state parks and stuff, and they do things that might make people disappear. But I know also, like, if you're in heat stroke, you can end up doing some very bizarre things. Like, it's not uncommon for people to kind of lose their mentation, like they don't know where they're at, and then they just start taking their clothes off to try to cool off, and then they just disappear. And then that could be one of the reasons as to why they find people's clothes a lot.
Yeah. If you, what was I gonna say? I don't know. Yeah, if you had to go missing in any of the national parks, which one would you pick?
So I've only been to a handful of national parks. I've been to Yellowstone. I understand the hype, but I don't think Yellowstone, like state park to state park, is as gorgeous as the Grand Tetons. I think the Grand Tetons is kind of like Yellowstone's like little neglected brother, because the Grand Tetons has this beautiful mountain range that comes out of like seemingly nowhere. Like the most of the area is relatively flat, and then you just see this giant mountain range in the distance, and it'll be like covered in snow in the middle of like summer, and it's like there's no geysers really. There might be like a handful. Yellowstone has a lot more geysers because of that volcano they have there, but I think just for if you wanted to see a state park that wasn't as busy, that had a lot of the same qualities of Yellowstone, Grand Tetons is like the place. So if I had to disappear, probably there.
You think Yellowstone's gonna blow up before we're dead?
No, I don't think so. But I'm also kind of optimistic. I know people say, I think...
Well, you're optimistic, like, I hope it goes, come on.
Some people might be like that, but I've heard, I think everybody's kind of heard, I think it goes off like every 650,000 years or something like that. Like 650,000 years it goes off, and we're like 75,000 years overdue or something.
Yeah.
I think a lot of that is like hard to quantify. I think like as humans we can say like, oh, it's going to go off then and that, but it turns into one of those scenarios where people are just trying to predict the end of the world.
Right. It's like
the
we
end of the
found
world.
this meteorite that's in 2046 could
Yes.
pass within 1 light year of Earth, and it's like, okay.
Yes, it's just like, yes, there's a 1% chance they could collide with Earth.
Yeah.
And then
As
people
a-
are like, some people are like, oh, thank God, like that chance is so low. And some people are like, come on, I hope it gets up to 10% or 20%.
As a kid, I was obsessed with like end of the world movies.
Everybody is.
Yeah, I would sit on YouTube in like 2010 and watch every single like meteor or tsunami or tidal wave video that existed. I was like very obsessed with that. You know the movie like 2012?
Yes.
I would watch that movie like every other day.
Yeah, 2012 was crazy. Well,
And I remember December 21st, 2012, the day that it was supposed to end.
yes.
I was like sitting in my living room watching 2012 movie clips,
Oh my
like
God.
obsessively, and I was like actually scared.
Yes.
And until it was the next day, I was like sweating bullets on my couch thinking about the Mayan calendar.
I remember, you remember that YouTube channel? I know it still exists, but Watch Mojo.
Oh yeah,
Everybody growing up watched at least some Watch Mojo videos, and it would always be like top 10 ways the world could end.
Yeah.
And then it would have clips from like different movies,
Mhm.
and like there would be like zombies, or like you said, like tsunamis and earthquakes and volcanoes. And then by the end of it, when you're like a little kid, you're just sitting there like, oh my God, it's gonna go at any
right.
moment.
I would literally sit there and just scare myself for hours on end.
But the funny thing is, like, you go back and look at like history, people have been predicting the end of the world forever, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
So basically everybody likes to think, okay, my generation is the generation. We are the
Oh yeah,
last.
everyone thinks they're the main.
the main characters.
Yeah, yeah, they're the main entree of the meal. No,
Exactly.
we're probably just the 20,000th appetizer.
Right.
So
So, I mean, is it going to go? I think maybe like some people might argue like, oh, like there's like a 7% chance or something like that. I don't know. And to sit here and be like, oh, like I'm so worried about the Yellowstone volcano, like I think
No.
it's like a waste of our time on Earth.
do you remember it wasn't the solar eclipse in 2017, but it was September 23rd, 2017, when the world was supposed to end. I was at your house
Yes.
having a campfire,
Yes.
and everyone was saying, oh, planet X will pass over Earth tonight and collide. And we were sitting there like waiting for the end of the world with a campfire going.
Yes. There's
Yeah.
been so many. And then another like less famous one was like in the year 2006 on like the date 6606, like the world was supposed to end.
Yeah.
And all that. I'm sure in the year 2066 there'll be the same thing.
There was Y2K.
Y2K.
Oh my gosh, Microsoft XP97's calendar only goes to 99.
That one was a weird one.
Yeah.
I feel like maybe if we lived through that time period, it would make more sense. But like looking back at it, that one was just like downright kind of dumb.
Yeah.
It was just like, okay, so we're gonna change the millennia, and that's gonna be the end of the world. Okay,
Yeah.
bet.
Okay, well, let's get some new programmers on the calendar and problem solved.
Or the Mayan calendar only goes to 2012.
Yeah.
It's almost like they haven't been around for the past 2,000 years.
It's almost
or
like
something.
the Chichen Itza or whatever is like
Yes.
5,000 years old. They probably just didn't get to the calendar.
Right.
I don't know. I don't even know if the Chichen Itza. That's like Aztecs or something. I don't know.
I could not tell you.
I don't
I know
know.
I think they're in Argentina.
I-
So I'm sure there's some kind of connection there.
Yeah, I'm gonna have a Huffington Post article written about me now since I just got that wrong.
Yes, you mislabeled.
Yeah.
Misidentified.
But
I do
Yeah,
know they find some crazy stuff in the world. Like they'll find like relics from like, I know you had an episode about the ancient world, and I was listening to the Egypt one yesterday, and you were talking about like the Great Pyramids, and I agree. I think it's quite amazing what they were able to accomplish with supposedly like
nothing.
Like you said, they had thousands and thousands and thousands of people. They had plenty of time. It probably was not constructed over the course of one lifetime. I think it's pretty clear that this happened over the course of a couple, probably centuries.
Yeah.
So for that to occur, it's like probably one of the most organized events over the course of human history to get the pyramid. Because like, I know me, I start a project and within like a week I'm done. I play Minecraft with the intention of building a super monument.
Right.
And within like 4 or 5 days I'm done.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, they could have just done it on Minecraft.
They could have just done it on Minecraft.
Like, they didn't have to go through
trouble.
all that effort. Like, dude, just do it on a game.
Do it on a game, man.
They could have built the pyramids on Sim City.
Yeah.
But they were like, no, we'll do it in real life.
Well, it's like ocean monuments.
They were so extra.
Ocean monuments in Minecraft, like, the big thing is you build like a little wall around it, and then you put sand in it, and then you get rid of all the water.
Right.
It's like, why can't we just do that with the Titanic?
Yeah, no, yeah, you fill it with sponges, and... Have you heard the conspiracies about the Titanic as well?
What's the conspiracies?
So this is like another Rothschild type,
Was it the wrong? Is it the wrong boat theory? Is a theory that
Well,
it's the Olympia, not Titanic?
This theory is that they hyped up the Titanic as the unsinkable boat so that all these rich people would get on it, and the guy that built the boat supposedly knew it would sink, and he put like his business enemies on the boat. And then it sank, and there goes my competition. That's sad.
That's some advanced, like, that's like real life chess.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I have these people in my life that I want to get rid of. I'm going to construct a boat.
Right.
Spend millions of, probably the equivalent of billions of dollars to build this boat. And then I'm going to call it the Titanic, the unsinkable. Mm-hmm. Get them to get on the boat. And then I'm going to plant an iceberg in the middle of the ocean, and then have them run into it.
Right. I mean, it's just levels to revenge whenever you're rich. It's like, yeah, I could screw my family. I don't like my one uncle. I'll just screw him out of a couple $1,000s. Yes. No, whenever you're rich, it's like, I will construct the world's largest boat and then have it sink on command.
I've heard the theory that the Titanic wasn't actually the Titanic. It was like a different boat they were building, like the Olympia. So I guess the theory goes something like this, where they were building the Titanic. It wasn't quite finished yet, but they said, kind of like a video game, they're like, this will come out, whatever, December, whatever. And they're like, shoot, like, we're not done yet.
And they had to...
They had to get the Olympia out, scrub the name off the side, and then they named it Titanic.
And then the iceberg DLC dropped. And the rest is history.
Yes.
Yeah. What was I just going to say? Oh, yeah, and then, James Cameron, when he made Titanic, he works for the deep state just to cover up the mess.
Oh, yeah, he's covering up
Jack and Rose, that's just a cover so we don't talk about,
yes,
the people that were murdered on board.
Well, think about it, though. You know what the happiest creatures are?
What?
Those lobsters that were in the Titanic whenever it went down. They were able to swim away.
Did they have lobsters
100%,
on the Titanic?
100%.
Did people eat lobster back then?
100%. 200%. And they probably had them binded up just like they have at the local grocery store. And, like, the ship's probably going down and they're just cheering.
Oh, my God.
I'd be losing it. If I was a lobster on the Titanic, I would lose my
Do you think
mind.
they still had the rubber bands on the claws back then?
It's all right. They probably found, like, other lobsters and had them chop it off.
Yeah. No, that would have been sweet. And, they found the dead guys who were playing the violin when the ship went down, and they went and sawed the rubber band off with the violin string.
Exactly. And then they started playing it like Little Mermaid or something.
Yeah. Under the sea. Speaking of the Little Mermaid, have you seen everyone's crapping their pants because Disney keeps changing the race of characters?
I get that. I understand it, but I think it does have a little bit of a purpose, because I used to have like a little bit of a different angle. But, like, I watched this one video of, like, this little girl who's watching the trailer to the movie, and that little girl looks up at the screen and says, like, Mommy, that looks like me. Like, I could be that person. Mm-hmm. The thing is, a lot of people made fun of that. A lot of people made memes about it. But the thing is, I think it serves a purpose.
I don't even care what... I don't give a crap.
I don't either.
I literally think it's just done to be done.
And then, see, my whole concept with it is, I think Disney is going to be Disney. Disney is going to recycle as much crap they can.
Dude,
they don't come up with original.
Can we talk
thought.
about that? That's the whole entertainment industry now.
As a whole.
There's nothing original.
Right.
It's either a remake or a spin-off. Every other movie today is either another Avengers movie, another Star Wars movie, or a movie based on a video game. Like,
there is no original thought.
Yeah, there's like 3 original movies a year. And
now,
the rest are just...
And it's going to be even more wild with the advent of AI technology. You know how many movies we've probably watched that were written by an AI? Or at least the main concept of the story came about from an AI.
I'm not kidding. If anything was going to like completely radicalize me at this day and age, it would be artificial intelligence. Because like, we need to destroy it. It's going to take every job. Did you listen to the AI episode?
Yeah, I did a little bit.
Like, literally, it can already do so much. It can write a whole movie script in like 10 minutes if you just tell it what the movie's about.
The craziest part...
It's going to take every job. And I joked about it a lot in that episode, but like, seriously, can we just go dump water on the whatever's running it?
I think it's almost kind of like an unavoidable next step. Because the thing is, like, we got computers. We have... all this technology, we have basically the technology to do it. I think somebody somewhere is going to do it. And it's like one of those things where it becomes like, it's kind of like the nuclear bomb. Like, America was the first, and then everybody else had one too. I'm sure the AI thing is going to be semi-similar. It's like, if we don't do it, China is 100% going to do it.
Every time there's like a new big technology thing, people think it's the end of the world. Like, people used to flip out about barcodes. When barcodes first came out, people were like, this is going to be the end of humanity.
Well, yeah, it's like the mark of the beast.
But I think AI, not to sound like one of those people, but like, there's going to be no jobs to do.
I think
every job in business, every job in marketing, every job in, the only jobs that'll be left are like trades.
I'll counter your argument. Halo, there's Cortana. Cortana's hot.
You want to go to Halo?
No, I was just saying, like, there is some upsides.
You want a robot wife?
No, I don't want a robot wife.
Are
Robot
you sure?
wife would be way too smart for me. I need at least somewhat.
Well, you can program the robot wife to like not be as smart as you probably.
Yeah, but the problem with that is like, it's kind of like when you deactivate something in a video game. Like, it's still there. It's still running. It's just not being used.
Yeah, you have to hit the mutator settings.
No, I think it's just a matter of time till AIs and everything. Because like I think like the world's kind of moving that direction anyway. I mean, like we put the Alexa things in our houses, and that thing's listening to us 24/7. But it only activates when we say Alexa, do this or whatever.
See, I think technology is perfectly fine whenever it complements your life. Mm-hmm. But my worry about AI is like this is gonna completely take over. Because think about like what jobs do people work in, like offices? Like, oh, you fill out Excel spreadsheets, you send emails. Mm-hmm. That could all be done by a robot in like a year, probably. And then I've seen people make arguments where they're like, oh, AI doesn't eliminate jobs; it just eliminates unnecessary jobs. And it's like, yeah, but you're gonna put how many millions of people out of work? What are they gonna do?
Well,
those unnecessary jobs, like someone's, people need money somehow.
If it's like Star Trek, like I think in the world of Star Trek, it's almost kind of like communism, which it would never work. Theoretically, it would just never work. But like in this fictitious, fake place, they all basically share the same things. So basically, like if you want like a car or something, you can just go up to like that 3D printer. It's not even a 3D printer. It's like it creates it out of atoms and stuff. So like they live in like this perfect utopia, but like stuff still goes wrong anyway.
Yeah.
So
I don't know.
I think one upside is maybe people will be able to do other things like with their life instead of busting their butt to do like an office job. They can go do stuff as far as like raising a family and things like that, because one big issue in the world right now is as first world countries become first world, they don't create enough population to support the older generation.
Mm-hmm.
Like America's starting to see that a little bit, but other places, like I know for a fact, Japan.
Oh, Japan's bad.
They're not replacing their population.
No,
rate.
Japan is gonna like
growing. The only reason their population is growing at all is because of other people moving in.
Mm-hmm.
So over time, no one really knows what that looks like, but I think that without a younger population, like who is going to take care of the current generation?
Right. Yeah, the old people kind of need to start dying. Yeah, they got a lot of money, that needs to come back. That that needs to start trickling down a little bit.
It's kind of like, but the one thought process with that is if once all the old people are gone, we'll be the old people.
Oh yeah,
and then our grandchildren will be like, those old people need to.
And we're gonna live to be like 150.
You think so?
Maybe.
I mean,
see,
if it's like the way the world is going right now, like the American life expectancy is only going down.
Yeah.
So maybe we only have like 20 years left.
Yeah. Well, I guess it depends. Yeah, I feel like it's all about diet. Do you eat the hot Cheetos? Do you drink the Monster?
Are you around when the nukes drop?
Yeah. Did you go to public school today on the wrong day?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that happens.
Yeah.
At least here. I don't know what it's like in other countries.
Well, I saw something, and it was like, because back in the day, the life expectancy was like 35, 40. But that was heavily skewed because of all the infant deaths.
Exactly. I'm glad you brought that up.
Like,
that
people
is a total
in the
misconception.
1600s lived to be like 70 years old.
Yeah.
It was just such a skewed number because half the babies would die of a disease.
Cholera, diphtheria.
Yeah, when they were a day out of
pertussis.
the womb,
Yeah, right. And not only just that, but I mean, I would go as far to say like violence as a whole probably claimed more lives, because I mean, if you look at the Civil War, like that was literally like a brother on brother type war. Like if you had a family and one family member went to move to Maryland and the other family member stayed in PA, chances are if they were like military age males, they went to war against each other.
Speaking of Civil War, what do you think the end game is for the United States today?
I think today, I think I think some people are unhappy with what's going on in the world, and especially in our country. And I think where that ends up, I think it's really hard for anybody to predict. I think a lot of people are dissatisfied with the way their jobs and their careers and stuff are going. But I would like to think that I don't think it's going to become into like Civil War Part 2.
Yeah.
But I guess that's always an option on the table.
If you asked me that, like, I don't know, 3 to 5 years ago, I would have said, like, yeah, it's going to be Democrat versus Republican, Civil War Part 2.
Well, I don't think so.
Today, I think it's gotten better.
Mm-hmm.
I think since COVID has kind of ended and things are kind of back on track, I think people are just worn out of all of it.
Mm-hmm.
I can only speak for myself, but, like, I really don't think about politics anymore. I mean, during COVID, like, when everyone was just shut in their house, there was nothing else to talk about besides the election and all this other BS. But at least for myself, in the past, like, year or two, I don't think about any of that stuff anymore.
So I think it's interesting you brought that up.
And that's just me, though.
I think it's interesting you brought that up, because I agree to that for a certain extent, for sure, because I don't remember where I learned this. It might have been like in a history book or something, but I remember reading about the average person back like 150 years ago had way more tactile skills. Like they knew how to start fires. Like everybody knew how to start a fire. Everybody knew how to go out and hunt something and, cut it up and eat it. Mm-hmm. Everybody knew how to basically fend for themselves. A lot less people know how to fend for themselves now. But in turn, I think the average person has learned so much more. Like, if you think about this, like, if you went back 150 years ago, over half the people in your town probably didn't even know how to read and write.
Yeah.
So any little bit of information they got was from somebody that knew how to read or write. And that person could have easily just made stuff up.
Mm-hmm. But if those people who didn't know how to read and write today lived and the power grid went off, they'd be the most successful.
Yes.
If the power
grid...
grid...
they'd be able to survive in the wild.
If the power grid went off, the world would be over as we know it in like 24 hours.
Basically, I don't think everybody would die instantaneously, but there would definitely be a lot of people hungry.
Yeah, there would be
a lot more conflict.
No electricity, no gas to put in your car. Whatever's in your car is all the gas you got.
But it's funny you say that because people from third world countries, they'd probably just keep trucking along. Very little ever even happened.
Yeah, dude, Africa would be like, so?
Yeah.
like
especially the regions of the world where... So, I also learned another crazy thing. 5 billion people in the world have iPhones, or at least some kind of smartphone technology. Mm-hmm. I went to Guatemala through my college, and I was blown away. Almost everybody had some kind of technology. Almost everybody had a phone. Even if they lived in a concrete structure with a tin roof, they still had some kind of phone.
Right. It's like food, water, shelter, and phone.
Yeah, everybody's hooked up in some capacity.
Yeah, and I think that's crazy because, on paper, the things you need to survive are food, water, and shelter. Mm-hmm. But,
and it's almost like growing more stuff.
Yeah.
So, in a way, it's like we've become... It's like we've evolved in knowledge, but at the same time, we've also, disevolved. The average person is capable of way less as far as tactile skills.
And you can live without a phone, but at the same time, you can't.
I think about that movie Castaway sometimes with Tom Hanks.
I hate that movie.
You hate it?
I hate that movie. Tom Hanks should have hung himself in that movie.
Why?
It's the crappiest movie ever. The dude gets lost on an island. The scene where he's about to hang himself, I'm egging him on to do it.
Yes.
Because then he goes back and his wife's got a new man, and then it's just a sad ending.
Well, but he hits on that mail lady. The mail truck lady.
I don't care about the mail lady. She was probably delivering a Ted Kaczynski letter. No. If I were to write that movie again at the 50-minute mark when he's about to put the noose on, I would have killed it there.
My favorite part of that whole movie is when he gets the tooth infection and he takes the ski and he bashes his tooth out and then he passes out because of all the pain he's going through.
Yeah, I hate that scene.
He lives.
Yeah, but he lives.
I don't know.
That's about it.
I think
he made it through.
I think that movie. I think that movie is interesting in the fact that I think the mass majority of people would not be able to do that. I think even more so. So that movie came out, I think, in the early 2000s, maybe in the late 90s. Mm-hmm. I think even the past 20 years, if you were to take an average person from the 90s, they probably had a better chance of survival than us.
I would rather watch any movie than Castaway.
Any movie, okay.
Name the worst movie, and I just hate that movie. I don't know why.
I got a terrible movie.
What?
M. Night Shyamalan's Avatar movie. That was the first movie when I was growing up that I saw it in theaters with my dad, and we were diehard Avatar fans. Avatar: The Last Airbender fans.
M. Night Shyamalan made an Avatar movie?
Yeah.
Isn't M. Night Shyamalan the big horror movie guy?
He makes thrillers. Mm. But yeah, I guess some of it could be considered horror movie. That movie with the grandparents that aren't actually the real grandparents and stuff.
The Visit or whatever.
Yes, that one is scary.
And then he made Us, right?
No, that's Jordan Peele, I think.
Oh yeah. He made Cabin in the Woods or whatever. M. Night Shyamalan, right?
I don't know if he made Cabin in the Woods, but I know he's made a couple movies. But anyway, he's still making them. Mm-hmm. He made one, Knock at the Cabin Door or whatever.
Oh, he made Signs.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good movie.
See, it's so funny you say that because that movie is great. I love that movie. A couple years later, he makes this movie, Avatar: The Last Airbender, and it's supposed to be a representation of the child's TV show. Mm-hmm. Oh my God, it was so bad. The actors were terrible. The storyline was so butchered. Because, think about it. They're trying to take, basically, most of the elements from the first season of that kids show and put it into one movie, which you can do, but it was just so rushed and hard, to comprehend. It was just, I'm sitting there, well, when's this going to happen?
Was it live action?
Yes.
And I never knew they made that movie.
Yeah, it was the first movie I had ever watched when I was growing up. I was probably 7 or 8 years old when I watched it. And I was just sitting there this movie is horrible. Like, it was the first time, because, like, I had seen bad movies growing up. But when you're a kid, you don't know what movies are bad and what movies are good. You just think everybody, like, you think, like, if enough adults got together to make something, it was going to be worthwhile to watch.
Yeah.
You never really thought about, like, it being bad. But, like, I watched this movie, I was just like, this is terrible. Like, how did this get made?
Have you seen the new Matrix movie?
The Matrix Resurrections?
Yeah.
I did.
What did you... I thought it was the dumbest movie of all time. It was so up its own butt.
It
was
hard.
like not a movie.
The thing about it is, it's so exhausting watching movies and like just engaging in material that doesn't really need to exist.
Yeah.
Like, that movie had no reason to exist because the end of even the other Matrix sequels,
the second and third ones
they
are
didn't
like
need to exist anyway either.
No.
So bringing back and doing this one, I love Keanu Reeves. I think he's one of the best people out there. I think he's an amazing actor. I love the John Wick movies. John Wick's one of those things where they could have ended it with the first one, but they kept it going. And you know what? I love those movies. I just think they're entertaining to watch. It's like you can kind of flip your brain off and just enjoy it.
Right.
The Matrix, I'm just sitting there like, this is one, boring. Two, it's not that cool. Because like they're just trying to repeat and do fan service from the previous movies.
Oh, yeah.
And I always hated that kind of cliche thing where like you already have like this established character and then for some reason they like lose their memory. Mm-hmm. Like the amnesia effect type thing. I've never really been a big fan of that.
I got into like physical media this past winter.
Okay.
Like I was like buying physical movies just for fun.
Yeah.
And I went to Target. I bought the Matrix 4-pack, all the 4 movies.
Yeah.
I watched the first one, great movie. The next 2, I was like, this is too much. In the third movie, there's like a half-hour sequence where you don't even see the main characters. And it's literally just them flying the ship through like a half hour of uncut just flying. It was ridiculous. But anyway, I got to the 4th one, and I have never seen a movie that like that. Part of it was interesting to me just because the movie was so self-aware and like literally making fun of itself.
Yes.
Like the people in the movie were like, "Oh yeah, Warner Brothers wants us to restart this and make more money." Like they were self-aware of that in the movie, and that was weird. But then it was like an hour and 40-minute long movie, and the end credits roll, and I was like, "That's the movie."
You
like
know what else is
there was no
interesting
plot
about
to
that?
the movie.
Did you know Matrix 2 and Matrix 3 came out in the same year?
Yeah.
Like, one came out, I want to say, like, January, and the other one came out around Christmas. Mm-hmm. And it's like, I'm not saying that you can't do that, but most of the time, like, just historically speaking, when you have, like, a movie franchise or a video game franchise, if you have that quick of a turnaround, most of the time, that product is not good.
Yeah. Like, I would watch the first Matrix again, but I don't think you could ever get me to watch the second through 4th one ever
obviously,
again.
having enough time, like having more than enough time, isn't always the best either. Because Matrix Resurrections, they had so much time, and that movie literally it established. I don't think anything very.
No,
new.
it wasn't even a movie. If you ask me, it was like
it was fan service. The movie.
Mm-hmm. I just feel like that's how a lot of movies are today. Mm-hmm. Like the new Spider-Man with all 3 Spider-Man.
Do you think?
That to me wasn't a movie. That was like an event.
Right.
To me, that was like a Fortnite event that they filmed with real people.
Yeah.
You know, like the Travis Scott concert in Fortnite? To me, that movie was like a Fortnite event. Like,
you're talking about where all the Spider-Men come together?
Yeah. Like that is... What are we doing here? It's
weird.
It's to sell tickets.
Movie. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's... I think... I liked it. I liked the movie.
I loved it. It was cool, but then after it
sit and think about it.
Yeah, after it sank in, I was like, that's not a movie, though. Like, that's just a thing. It's like, yeah, we can do this. Let's do it. Let's...
Like you said, it's an event.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like when they do reunions of old sitcoms.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of what that felt like.
Yeah.
And it's just like... It's like, yeah, that event is cool, but it shouldn't be anywhere as interesting or as important as, like, the original source material.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know, are you still into, like, Marvel stuff?
Not nearly as much as I used to be. After the last big Avengers movie came out, I was just like, perfect. End it here. Mm-hmm. Just stop it here. But, it's owned by Disney, and Disney is not going to stop.
No, they're not going to let anything die, ever.
Right. And I I haven't even watched the sequel to the Black Panther storyline, but like I kind of just sat there and I was just like, man, are they really gonna do that series without Chadwick Boseman? I'm like, he to me made that whole series work.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you can't enjoy it. I'm just saying it's just like with Star Wars. Like Carrie Fisher dies during the filming production of those movies, and they just CGI her in. Mm-hmm. It's like you talk about AI taking jobs and stuff. Like that whole concept to me was just like icky. Like it just gave me a big ick. Like I was just like every time she popped up, I was just like, oh, like this is bizarre. Mm-hmm. This is weird. It doesn't feel good.
Yeah.
I don't want to sit there in a movie like I feel morally ambiguous about their choices in making this movie.
Right. It's like whenever they release a dead rapper's album.
Yeah, or they post-mortemly make like 100 more songs. Mm-hmm. Like it's like, did they really? Like this is kind of weird.
Yeah. What was I gonna say about? Oh yeah, I like the way that DC does it more. Like I understand.
All right, you're walking on eggshells. With
whoa! I don't mean like Justice League, all that junk. I mean mostly like Batman, Joker type stuff.
Dude, like I understand Nolan movies.
I understand. We've seen 20 different Batman movies, but if you make a 21st, I'll still go see it and see what new approach they take on it. Yeah. Like I like that they don't care about like, oh, we have to establish a whole universe and everything has to be perfectly in line with this.
I like the latest Batman movie. I thought it was good. It was just long.
Oh yeah, it was way too long. There were certain scenes in that movie where he's like opening an envelope and it takes like 30 seconds, and it's like, dude, we don't need to see 20 shots of B-roll of him looking at an envelope.
Well, I remember like the final conflict, I guess you can call it, occurs in that movie, and then it doesn't end for like another 30 minutes.
Yeah, I thought it was too long.
I was just like, what is happening? I was like, people were literally getting their stuff up. I could hear people like getting ready to leave, and the movie still had like 10 more minutes left.
I think some movies nowadays are long just for the sake of trying to be long.
Well, it's like almost like it's like they're trying to set itself apart. Like, you know, if you go to an Avatar movie, you're like, all right, I know that this movie is going to be 2.5 plus hours, and I like respect that type of deal. Like Transformers movies are always like 3 hours long.
Yeah.
But like if you go to a Pixar movie, you know that movie's going to be somewhere between an hour and a half to 2 hours. Because like the kids' movies are always shorter because of attention spans and iPads.
Yeah.
But, like certain movies always have to be like this certain type of length, or like your typical action movie with like Jason Statham, like The Meg is going to be a 2 hour movie.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I definitely think that like movies do not all have to be that long.
No.
I don't care what genre. I think the Batman could have been 2 hours long.
Dude, it could have realistically could have been like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
I think.
There was like I rewatched it. I've seen it probably 3 or 4 times now. And there are parts in that movie where I'm like, this is such a drag-on scene that doesn't... Like, it's like Robert Pattinson staring at a wall for, like, 45 seconds. And it's like, dude, this does not need to be in the movie.
Yes.
I think one of the... Probably my favorite director is Christopher Nolan.
Yes.
And his stories do not stop. Like... They're such sharp cuts. There's no wasted time in a Nolan movie. And they're still like 3 hours long.
There's this concept of pacing. And the thing is, a lot of movies don't really care for pacing anymore. It's more about the actual content. So it's like we need to have X amount of scenes of him fighting people. We have to have X amount of dialogue scenes, this and that. Whereas like movies made a couple years ago, or even like over a decade ago, like they usually had better pacing. Like it was just like, okay, this scene is going to be this long because then it's going to feel shorter. So like you watch a Christopher Nolan movie, it usually doesn't feel like 2.5 hours. No. It usually feels like maybe 2 hours or something. Or like, I think Dark Knight Rises is like a 2 hour, almost 3 hour movie.
Yeah, it's like 240 something.
And it doesn't feel like it. It feels like an even 2 hour normal paced movie.
Yeah.
But did you ever see Interstellar?
Oh yeah, actually, it was on in the hospital, and I watched it again.
Did you?
Yeah, I caught the end of it.
I need to watch that one again.
I'm not a huge fan of that one.
No?
I think the concept is great, but I don't know. It always just made me feel weird. Like, I don't know.
I think
There's something, I can't put a finger on it.
I think it introduces a lot of like interesting topics as far as like where the world is headed and where space travel as its own thing is headed and the things that could come about. I think the cinematography was just downright awesome.
Oh, cinematography was great.
Like the music felt great. Like the soundtrack was amazing. Mm-hmm. It probably was one of those movies that was too long. Definitely. I thought the ending was cool though.
Yeah, I thought the ending with his daughter was pretty sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, like, nowadays, people say, like, oh, you're going to go see this movie or that movie. I'm like, I don't even, like, unless the trailers are thrown down my throat on YouTube, I don't even know they exist.
Mm-hmm. I go to the movies, like, once a year, if that.
Yeah. I used to go to the movies a ton.
Mm-hmm.
A ton. Like, a ton. Like, when I was in high school, like, I would easily see 5 or 6 movies every year. Nowadays, it's like I'm lucky if I go to the theater like 2 to 3 times a year.
Mm-hmm. I'm kind of half there for the popcorn too.
Yeah, I just like I was so nervous when the pandemic happened. Like when you're just sitting at your home thinking about all the consequences of this pandemic, I was thinking like, man, are our movie theaters legitimately going to shut down?
I honestly thought they were.
I
didn't think
too.
they were going to come back because everything was coming out on like HBO Max too.
Right.
Like. Not in theaters.
And it's still like that. But the thing is, people still go out to see movies. I've seen a couple movies since the end of the pandemic, like in the movie theater. And the thing is, it's not that the theaters have really changed. It's just, I feel like a lot of the movies, at least the past few years, have just been different.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's very much suffering from writers' strikes and things like that. Like I know there's a lot of writer strikes happening right now, even because of the AI controversies and other reasons too. But
yeah, and we were talking about how everything just feels like a reboot or something unoriginal now. I don't think you can necessarily blame that on people though, because like, how do you make an original story nowadays?
Yeah,
like everything's been done.
Yeah, but
so
see, that's the thing. It's like you have to go a distance to make it your own, and the thing is, I understand it from like a movie making perspective. It's like you have X amount of money and it's like, okay, I want something that I know will get a return of money.
Oh yeah, it's all business.
Yeah, if you go out of your way to make something that's completely original, there's an even Steven chance that it's going to flop.
Which sucks because everyone just wants to be force fed the same thing they've seen 100 times.
Yes, but it's weird because, and that's the thing too, because I'm guilty of this as well. I love movie franchises, but at the same time, I am not a huge proponent of people redoing and recycling and rebooting the same concepts over and over and over. Mm-hmm. Like we talked about with Batman. Like, I'm on the same page with you. I'll watch any Batman movie, but I get very tired of the same trope over and over again as well.
Yeah, let me say this. The new Star Wars movies, 7, 8, and 9, don't exist to me.
See, it's so funny you say that.
They don't exist.
The people who saw the original trilogy, they say that the sequel trilogy that came out in the early 2000s, they say that those ones don't exist.
See, but here's my gripe with that.
We grew up with the prequel movies, and then all these new kids are growing up with I don't even know what you call...
The sequels.
I guess the sequels, the sequel movies. So those kids grow up with the sequel movies. So is there going to be a generation where they're like, oh, I remember when I was in the theater watching episode 7 and blah, 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 this happened.
See, here's the thing though. George Lucas wrote episodes 1 through 6 as a complete story with a beginning and an end.
True.
He made the first 4, 5, and 6 first because those were like... He knew that those would be better movies to start with and get people engaged.
Which I think
and
is
then later,
true.
he waited for technology to make 1, 2, and 3. Mm-hmm. And that was a whole story that he wrote himself. It was a perfect story, perfect beginning, middle, and end. Mm-hmm. The sequels, they just brought out of thin air. There's nothing about the... like.
Well, and the trajectory
they were
of those...
They were made for money, as everything else is. But the 6 Star Wars movies were perfect. There was a perfect story. And even having a 7th movie completely ruins those 6 movies because it was a perfect end.
And when I watch the prequels when I watch the prequels now, like I understand that a lot of people at the time saw like the actors doing their thing, and like there's times where Hayden Christensen's Anakin character was kind of like cringy.
Oh yeah.
Especially like there's the famous scene where he's like, "I hate sand." It's like coarse and rough, and it gets everywhere. Like people at that time that were diehard Star Wars fans that grew up as a child watching the originals and then see these ones. Like, I understand why they didn't like it. Yeah. But I think there's more explanation and reasoning as to why those generations, like our generation and that generation before us, don't like the brand new movies.
Yeah. I mean, if I grew up with the originals and I saw the prequels, I would probably feel the same way, but I think I'd be able to recognize, okay, these movies are not as good as the first three, but they need to happen because that's the story.
Right.
The new three ones don't
even need to
should
happen.
not have ever happened, but
especially with the whole deal with, spoiler alert, but it's in the first like 2 minutes of the 9th movie, Palpatine comes back.
Yeah, that completely butchers the first 6 movies.
Yes,
the most evil guy that you defeated in the first 6 movies, who basically coordinated everything. Oh yeah, he's back.
That's like
that's like blasphemous.
That's literally like if Adolf Hitler came back.
Yeah.
For World War III, it's like, really, guys? We had to reboot that guy?
Yeah. The laziest thing of all time. We're sitting at an hour 45.
Yeah. I think that it might be time to start wrapping it up.
Yeah.
But it was awesome getting a chance to enter the world of alternative jargon.
Absolutely.
I would gladly come back anytime.
It was great to have a guest to alleviate the pressure off my shoulders.
Yes.
We broke my record, or my episode length record, by an hour. So
maybe this could be a 2-parter.
Yeah. For the 3 people that listened to the whole thing, thank you.
I can't wait to listen to this whole conversation again.
Over again,
while I play Minecraft.
Yes. I think you got something in your mailbox out there from Ted, so we should probably go check on that.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, it's great to have you on. So
yeah, I respect what you're doing, man. It's tough. I could definitely see how it would be hard to find some topics interesting enough to talk about for 45 minutes, especially solo.
Yeah.
So I respect what you're doing.
It's fun to do.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, new episodes every Friday once again, unless I'm put in the hospital for another reason.
Yeah, hey, you can have like the doctor come in as like a guest star.
I called room service and I said, can I get a camera and a tripod? But they never got back to me. It was against my dietary restriction. So, but yeah, we'll see you guys next time.
See ya.